Rachel Maddow absolutely outdid herself this week. Every time you think she's hit rock bottom as a broadcaster and journalist, she manages to surprise us yet again. That's why she earns the big bucks. You have to stay ahead of your audience. Here was her message to people in her first show back since Charlie Kirk's murder.
Whatever else you think about what Trump is trying to do in office, there is no drama. Right? There's no uncertainty. There's no ambiguity about the agenda, right? It is the textbook agenda of every right-wing strongman everywhere.
There's only been one story in the world for the last 2 weeks, Kirk's horrific assassination, and there is so much to talk about from it. The motives of the alleged assassin with those bizarre engravings and membership of depraved message boards. The reaction from the in-your-face left celebrating the murder of a 31-year-old father of two. Erica Kirk's incredibly moving speech filmed in Kirk's studio. But the one thing that should be at the forefront of everyone's mind, especially those with an access to a large platform, is an appeal to civility. The fact is that political discourse in America has become so aggressive and people have become so siloed within their own political bubbles that someone, sure, probably a mentally ill person, but still someone, thinks it's acceptable to murder someone on the other side of politics. Surely you would want to tell people that public debate must be civil, and the response to speech you don't agree with is your own speech, not a bullet. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. So here's how Rachel Maddow, reportedly earning $25 million a year to broadcast one show a week, starts her show. Not with an appeal to civility, but with a warning so stern it would terrify the strongest of warriors.
This time next week, next Monday, September 22nd, Kamala Harris is going to be here. This is going to be her first full-scale news interview since the 2024 election. She will be here live on set with me for the show. I have roughly 400,000 things I want to ask her about.
Sorry, that one was too easy. But here's the serious part. This is how much of her first editorial since the horrific event, an editorial which went for 25 minutes, mind you, was devoted to Charlie Kirk's horrific murder.
They're saying now they will use the horrific murder of pro-Trump activist Charlie Kirk last week as a justification for some undefined whole-of-government attack on what they always describe very vaguely as the left in this country.
That's it. That's the whole amount of time. Rachel Maddow took stock of the news cycle and devoted that much time to the story that everyone's talking about. She's paid tens of millions of dollars a year, and that's all the opinion analysis she can muster. A throwaway comment about Trump apparently wanting to use the murder. Are MSNBC feeling that that is a return on investment? But I tell you what, this is much more than a well-paid journalist completely missing the boat on what her audience wants to hear about. There is a public duty that Rachel Maddow is missing here. The horrific death of a political figure should make everyone reflect. I don't even want to go down the path here of who is more to blame about violent rhetoric in America between the left or the right. It's the left, by the way, but we'll keep moving. I, in my heart of hearts, don't think left-wing journalists who go on MSNBC want to see actual harm come to Republicans. Just like I think people who go on Fox News don't want to see actual harm come to Democrats. We're all adults here. We can disagree vehemently. We can think the other side are completely wrong and their ideas stupid, but we all know no one should suffer actual violence, especially murder, for the crime of thinking differently. But the fact is, there are sick people out there watching on every side of politics, and all of us with a platform have a responsibility to make sure that those sick people can't twist our words in their head to make them think that we believe or condone something we don't. I'm not saying that we're all responsible for the actions of our strangest listeners, but at the very least, we should be aware of the impact that words can have and adjust our language accordingly. So with that in mind, let's keep that last clip going.
They're saying now they will use the horrific murder of pro-Trump activist Charlie Kirk last week as a justification for some undefined whole-of-government attack on what they always describe very vaguely as the left in this country. Whatever else you think about what Trump is trying to do in office, there is no drama. right? There's no uncertainty. There's no ambiguity about the agenda, right? It is the textbook agenda of every right-wing strongman everywhere, right? They all do the same thing. They tell people there is an enemy within that demands emergency measures, right? There's an enemy within that's nefarious and is responsible for all the terrible things. And so therefore we must have emergency powers and toughness, and we must take off the gloves and break the rules, right? That's textbook stuff. Then you use your control of government to take over or intimidate every source of power and authority in the country.
America is in a precarious place right now emotionally. And on the first address since an assassination, Rachel Maddow thought it makes sense to paint Donald Trump as some would-be strongman in the mold of Putin, Xi or Kim Jong-un. That's ridiculous at the best of times, but right now, how does Maddow not think of how people are going to interpret that? That the country is a small push away from a dictatorship, apparently on a path that all crackpot dictatorships have gone before, so much so that it's textbook. So let's have a think. There are unfortunately people out there who think Kirk's assassination was a good thing, that it brought America back from the brink. But then here's Maddow saying something that they could hear as the job's not done yet, the country's still at risk. What are they going to make of that? What are they going to plan next time a conservative thinker is in town? Now again, I'm going to be absolutely clear about this. Rachel Maddow is not responsible for any action taken by someone who has listened to her video. She is, however, responsible for the message that she puts out there. She went on to detail everything she thinks is coming from America. That Trump's agenda is to find an enemy, use it to consolidate power and make himself rich, then stay in power and join the club of other dictators. Then for the next 14 minutes, she played all the hits.
Under him, we've had job growth suddenly slow to a 16-year low, excluding the pandemic, which happened in his first term. Under him, long-term unemployment is now, per the Washington Post today, quote, at a post-pandemic high and a level typically only seen during periods of economic turmoil. The spike in healthcare premiums that everybody's about to see. If you're on the Affordable Care Act, this next year, your health insurance costs are expected to rise by more than 75%. That's affecting 24 million Americans. Healthcare costs up more than 75% in a year. That's because of Trump's policies. How's he doing in your personal economy? Donald Trump has done such a hit job on the economy that he is now putting his name on the signs at a bunch of infrastructure projects that were passed and funded by Joe Biden. In Biden's legislation that Trump was fanatically and vocally opposed to. Inflation is up, the labor market is down, health prices are about to go through the roof, and so Trump is taking credit, literally putting his name on Joe Biden's economic projects in the hopes that maybe he'll at least get credit for that stuff, because that stuff seems like it's working. So yeah, a guy with that record, should this man get even more control over the U.S. economy? Should he also take the reins of the Federal Reserve Bank that is legally independent from him?
These are the issues that are front and center of everyone's mind this week. Who has not scrolled past the coverage of an assassination in a desperate search to find out more about the correct titles of infrastructure projects? But towards the start of her diatribe, I've played it before, I want to play it again, this line in particular.
They're saying now they will use the horrific murder of pro-Trump activist Charlie Kirk last week as a justification for some undefined whole-of-government attack on what they always describe very vaguely as the left in this country.
Come on. There is a responsibility on all of us to lower the temperature right now. I don't think Maddow's hoping to incite violence or instigate weirdos into action, but really is now the time to be portraying a democratically elected government wanting to investigate if a murder was organised by a group of people as somehow an all-of-government effort to purge America of its left wing. Is that responsible commentary, knowing what we know weirdos can do in the name of trying to defeat hate? Maddow is free to criticise Trump, but the radical left-wing fan fiction about the overthrow of America is over. It is time for responsible commentary. I'm sure Maddow's big fat paycheck for hosting one show a week pisses off her colleagues at MSNBC or MS Now or whatever it's called now, but maybe the limited amount of her is what's best for all of us, because I don't think we could take much more. All right, that's it for me this week. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel to keep up with not just me, but all the other far superior commentators we have here. And if you have any thoughts on what Maddow said or what I said, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.